So I think that psychic phenomena provide us evidence that consciousness can exist outside of the brain. I think that this idea that consciousness is contained within the brain is, once again, that's an assumption. We can measure the electromagnetic voltage on the surface of the skin on our skull, and we can and it's a very small voltage, but it's still showing us that this electromagnetic activity it's coming out of our, it's not blocking an electromagnetic signal, so it's coming out of our brain. So we're generating these electromagnetic signals all of the time, and we don't understand enough about how the brain operates to just totally dismiss that it's possible that other people are able to pick up these sorts of signals, and that these signals can have kind of a life of their own beyond us. And so then when you look at that and you start to look at consciousess and its role, with the brain, and you start saying, well, okay, could consciousness be primary? Could it be that consciousness, instead of being generated by the brain, actually creates the brain? And in order to answer that question, one of the things I did was, as I went outside of the human species and I started looking at, all living systems. And there's this creature who is a sea squirt that is sedentary for a good portion of its life, but when it needs to move somewhere else and find a new environment in which to set up housekeeping, so to speak, it grows a brain. And the brain actually has corrugations in it, and kind of looks like a little miniature brain. And then it becomes capable of navigating through space-time in the here and now until it finds another location. And then once it plants itself somewhere new, it reabsorbs the brain and gets rid of it. So when you think about it, the brain is being created by the consciousness of this sea squirt. And because brains are so, their energy sinkhole. I mean, they take up so much energy. It takes up so much to keep a brain going that when you don't need it anymore, then they just get rid of it. Well, what if the sea squirts aren't the only conscious form? Let's say, I'm using conscious in a very loose term here, because I'm not using just a very narrow definition of consciousness as that which is, the human waking experience, but I'm actually talking about there's an organized intelligence that's creative, that's capable of enabling a living creature to navigate space-time. And so I'm really including that within my definition of conscious beings, which I know that a lot of people would dispute that, but let's just have a broader sense of consciousness and say that. Then if that's the case, well, what if we are generating this body, which is something that actually Edgar Cayce said. He said the mind is the builder. And so what if we are actually, our consciousness field's what creates our body and our mind? And then once this just becomes diseased, or it's gone, the cells have gone through their maximum number of safe replications without there now being too many errors in it, that we then just discard this body and move on. I think that that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. And if that's the case, there's a lot of data that would fit in with that. For example, the survival data about people who are able to, through research on mediumship, people who seem to be able to contact people from the other side. It could make sense with reincarnation. How is it that you can have these children born that recall previous lives? They've got markings on their new body, that are consistent, that these are birthmarks of one kind or another, or they're missing fingers or whatever, and they're remembering a past life in which they were attacked and had those fingers cut off. I mean, so when you take all of that information and you start to think, well, maybe we're not that different from the sea squirt. What if we are so much bigger than this? What if we are primarily consciousness fields, and our body, like the visible things within a galaxy, or if you look at what's visible within an atom, they're less than 3% of what's visible is what we consider the atom or the galaxy. I mean, the rest of it we're calling space or dark matter, dark energy. And so what if really that we're just too focused on what's visible, and there really is something else there, and we're much bigger than just that physical reality that we all can perceive with our senses so readily.